Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just
speaking into the void?
But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Nespresso. Gift magical mornings with Nespresso Virtuo Pop. Compact and stylish, Virtuo Pop is made to meet every morning coffee craving. From espresso to coffee, hot or iced, at the click of a button. And celebrate the season with Nespresso's limited edition coffee flavors. Sweet almond and hibiscus, cinnamon and candied tamarind, and festive double espresso. Magic in the making. Shop the holiday gift collection exclusively at Nespresso.com.
Buckeye Talk is about to begin. Hey, 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 come on in.
Welcome back to Buckeye Talk. I'm Stephen Means. That's Stefan Krajisnik, and that is Andrew Gillis. This is your post-game pod. Ohio State beats UCLA 48-10 to improve to 5-4-1 all time against UCLA. This is also the most points they've ever scored on the Bruins. It surpasses the 1999 total when the last time UCLA came to Columbus in 1999. They beat them 42-20. The only other time they've scored more than 40 against UCLA was in 1975 when they won that game 41-20. So they didn't need to give up 20 points to score 40 points. Good job for you, Ohio State. There's a lot we could get into. Stefan and I are going to talk about right guard on Monday. We're going to spend 30 minutes talking about Jeremiah Smith and Carnell Tate because Carnell Tate didn't play for the second straight week, and Jeremiah Smith played the first quarter and a half, caught 4 or 5 targets for 40 yards, including a one-handed catch where we all went, oh, okay, JJ's healthy. And no, Stefan, he was not healthy because 2 catches after that, he was limping around the sideline, limping back up the tunnel to go to the locker room at halftime, and then limping around the sideline some more after the game. No helmet. He was just kind of following around with CJ Barnett for the entire second half of this football game. Let's start with Carnell Tate. What was the first thought that popped into your head last week when we went through the first drive of the game and it was like, oh, Carnell Tate didn't play?
My first thought was interesting, but seeing him in uniforms, having seen him go through warm-ups, I thought this is precautionary. They're playing Purdue. It's overcast. I think the field, like Ryan Day had walked out. It had rained like earlier that day. Ryan Day had walked out on the field pregame, and you could kind of see him, trying to figure out how slippery things were and how wet things were. And it was just kind of like, there's no point in risking this. So I didn't think anything of it. And Ryan Day, speaking postgame and at halftime with the BTN broadcast, kind of solidified that. So that my initial thought was nothing to worry about here.
Gillis, if you have anything and feeling that is different than what Stefan just said, say it. If not, just say ditto.
Retweet. How about that?
That's fine. That was just you being difficult. Fine.
Doesn't follow directions, but he gets the job done.
So Gillis, when we don't see Carnell on Wednesday evening when we're in the practice facility, but we didn't see any of the receivers. In fact, I saw JJ walking into the locker room. Mm-hmm. So we literally saw none of the receivers. And that's not like on accident that we didn't see any of the receivers. They knew who we were coming in there to see. There was a checklist of guys between Tywon Malone, Josh Padilla, Phillip Daniels, sure. But like number 1 on the list is number 17 in your program. Everybody wanted to see him. We didn't see him. So whatever. When we got the news that Carnell Tate was not only going to be out, not questionable, a guy who wasn't on the availability report 7 days ago, he didn't even go from questionable to out. He went from all the way in, going through warmups, to out. What was your first reaction? Just Carnell.
Good that he wasn't going to play. Because, like, all due respect to the Bruins, but they stink. and they stink out loud. Ohio State, like, for example, to use context for how out loud the Bruins stink, Ohio State had 3 running backs carry the ball today. Peoples, West, Jackson, all 3 of them averaged 7 yards a carry. UCLA couldn't stop a running nose. They're terrible defensively. You did not need Carnell Tate to play this game, and you did not need Carnell Tate to win this game. You did not need Carnell Tate to cover a 34.5-point spread. You were fine. Like, I think not playing Carnell today, I thought was probably the smart move because you want to get other guys reps, as I'm sure we can touch on at least a little bit in this conversation. Like Bryson Rogers scoring a touchdown today, to me, was more important than Carnell Tate going up and mossing some dude and having a 60-yard touchdown. And Mylan Graham having a learning experience and having a play that I pointed out to you guys in the press box is like, hey, he had a really nice block downfield, which helped Bo Jackson get like an extra 20 yards. That's more important to me on these games than, oh, look, Carnell Tate made another sick catch along the sidelines. So I thought good that he wasn't playing. I think this was probably the last time I will think that. I think when we get to the Rutgers game, if I see Carnell Tate not in uniform, you start to, I don't know, you start to get a little tense because that would have been the Purdue game that he wouldn't played. That would have been the UCLA game. That would have been the Rutgers game. Then you start to get to 3 games and it's like, all right, is he going to come back from that against Michigan with his last game being 4 weeks prior against Penn State on November 1st? So my first thought was good. My first thought was this is not a game you need him. I'm glad he's being able to rest this injury off on the sidelines as other guys get the shot.
Okay, cool. Stefan, if there's any part of that you don't agree with, let's see if you can follow directions. Either say that or say ditto.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say ditto. The fact that he was just listed as out and didn't go through warmups concerned me a little bit.
Okay.
It makes me. Let me say what Day had said post game. He said decided to hold Carnell this week as well. There is a little part of me that's concerned that the tweak or the tightness that silenced him against Purdue doesn't particularly sound like they were hopeful it was going to go away by the time he went through warmups against UCLA.
Right.
Which is worse than what they thought going into the Purdue game. So I'm not saying freak out, hit the panic button. You heard what I thought last week. I was a bit more concerned this week.
Okay. So when Jeremiah Smith's name pops up on the availability report and it's questionable, what is your initial reaction?
Son of a...
I was with my parents, and my parents got to see me gasp. So there was that.
With that being said, again, Jeremiah Smith, 4 catches from 5 targets, 40 yards. Most of that came within the first quarter and a half. Day said that he essentially said he was on a snap count today. And it seemed like he reached that snap count, or at least flirted with like dangerously close to it, more dangerous than he should have been on it. When you see the end result, I'm putting this in the mind of a fan. That's why I'm asking you guys these questions in tandem like this. If you understand, I'm not just doing this for the sake of like dramatic effect. I think this is how fans felt when there's no reason to think Carnell's not going to play against Purdue. They don't even think Carnell's not going to play against Purdue. He went through warmups. We spent all of warmups watching right tackle to see who was going to be starting, and then going, I wonder who's going to rotate with Tegra Shabola at right guard today. Like, right, we're just going on about our business. So when Carnell Tate doesn't play the first two drives, we're also not aware that the television, the broadcasters are not even aware that it hasn't registered for them yet that Carnell Tate has not been on the field yet. We are not thinking this is going to turn into a 2-week, now 3-week thing potentially with Carnell Tate. I'm not doing that for fun. I'm trying to put us in the minds of the fans. So when you see what happens with Jeremiah Smith, Stefan, you were standing next to me like watching him the whole pregame, and I'm like, I'm doing the thing that people do on Twitter where I'm trying to psychoanalyze everything he's doing, every little movement. Is he messing with his leg? What's he saying, the Brian Hart line? I'm watching Carlos Loughlin like lip to him. Are you good? And it's very clear he's not good, but he got good to the point that he could play football today and do a JJ thing with the one-handed catch. But you see the end result, and we're saying, good, Carnell didn't play last week. Should JJ have played this week?
I I don't think so. Watching him in warm-ups, it was so interesting because I think you could say the same thing about the game. It's like we watched him warm up and run routes perfectly. Like I posted a video on Twitter where he's running a vertical route and he's zooming down the field and he looks fine. But between all those routes, between all those stretches, what do we keep seeing from him? He kept just messing with his right leg, right? Like at one point he's like hitting his right leg. Next point he's kind of just shaking his right leg. Like there's clearly something. I think nagging was the word that Ryan Day used, and that's probably fair. And then in the game, you see him playing and running routes and catching 4 catches for 40 yards and one-handed grabs. And you're like, he looks fine. But then he comes off the field and doesn't look fine. Someone posted on Twitter, like, I think it was second half, Ohio State walking back out to the tunnel, and he's like walking out, and like, it does not look particularly great, the weight and the pressure that he's putting on his right leg. I wonder if there's part of Ohio State, I wonder if there's part of Ryan Day that regrets playing him. And I wonder if some of it was like, hey, let's put him out there. Let's see, how his leg reacts. And I wonder if there's part of them that was like, why did we risk anything at all? I don't know. It was kind of scary to see him come up on the injury report. And then it was kind of concerning to see the way it all ended. And when you add on top of that, in the game, Brandon Inniss gets rolled up kind of on a play to the sideline and comes down kind of hard on his shoulder. And he's got an ice pack on his shoulder post game. You're kind of just sitting there wondering, this, I don't think is bad, but if it is bad, it's worst case scenario. You know what I mean? Because those are 3 guys you can't afford to lose.
And I don't want this to be because some of this is hindsight, right? He could have, let's just say his snap count today was 25, right? Which it was probably going to be 25 anyway. Like Caleb Downs didn't play the entire second half of this football game. So there's a world that exists where JJ was going to play the first half of this game and then we weren't going to see him anymore anyway. If they were fully, and the same with Carnell Tate. They beat this team 48-10, where they gave up 222 yards, and all but only 86 of them were given up by the first team defense. Like 136 of the 222 yards UCLA had today were against the backups on the last 2 drives of the game, right? So it's literally the most who cares, the most empty numbers you could possibly have against Ohio State's defense. So I don't want to, we're not going to turn this to shame on Ryan Day for playing a guy who was questionable, because we also joked before the game, questionable typically means you're not playing. So it can't be both ways, right? It's just, we now see the end result of something that's nagging turned into like a really, really nagging thing by the end of this game today. And I think we're all in agreement that we probably don't see these 2 next week. Right. Maybe we see Carnell, because you're right, Andrew. It'll be 3 weeks since he'll have played football, so maybe we see him. I do not think, based on the guy who was walking off of the field, we see Jeremiah Smith 7 days from now. And I don't think that's a problem. I think he should get the rest. This dude's played a lot of football, and he's 19 years old. He has played significantly more football than every other second-year player in college football right now.
Yeah, and
he's not even close.
We saw this last year. I remember there was a big deal, I think, before the national championship game. He had a massive wrap on his hamstring. And we talked about it at the time of he's 18 years old, and Ohio State just is at the tail end of a playoff run where they're playing their 16th game of the year. And he showed up from high school and immediately had spring practice. And, he didn't get the veteran rest days immediately, right? He had to come in and prove himself. He just played a lot of football. Yeah. It is just a lot of football, and I don't want to necessarily speculate on what the injury is or isn't or whatever.
It looks like a soft
it looks like a soft tissue thing.
It looks like a soft tissue injury in his upper right leg.
And one of the things that I was thinking of as we were talking about it was there's a quote from the movie Miracle. It's can he hurt it any worse? And you start to wonder how much of that played into a factor, because if it's just a pain tolerance thing, maybe it was they wanted to see how much he could do, and there's a lot of variables here that are like that. I'm not saying it's that specifically, or it's they wanted to get him running because running actually makes you feel better, and then he stops running and it hurts a lot. I don't know, but one of the things that I think we can, like you said, I think we can all agree on is maybe not the best idea to play him tonight. And I think the next time we see number 4 in uniform for Ohio State will be at the Big House. I think that I feel pretty confident in saying that right now without talking to anybody in the building or anything like that, without an inside source saying this is not going to, that's my hunch.
Okay. So Jeremiah Smith's got a lower leg injury, a leg situation, right? There's something going on with his right leg. I watched him fiddle with it the entire warm-up. We don't know what's going on with Carnell, but it's forced him to miss 2 games. Brandon Inniss walked into the interview room after the game with a big ice pack on his left shoulder after Gillis pointed out to me that he was messing with his shoulder for essentially the entire second quarter.
It was the Julian scramble where it looked like he was trying to block somebody. That was the first time that I'd noticed it, where he like reached out and then after the play's over,
he caught a pass. He got hurt after he caught a pass, and you could see him kind of like in pain. He went out there and just kept playing, but like it was like he got tackled like on Ohio State's sideline, and the broadcast showed like he was in pain, like very slow to get up, like probably should have come out of the game to at least get looked at, or at least like catch his breath. He just went right back in, but yeah, not great because it kind of like he was like tackled and like landed on his shoulder.
Okay, and then most importantly, the quarterback got knocked down and twisted his ankle and had to get his ankle retaped.
Yeah.
I asked him after the game. He said it was fine. It just got twisted up, and he had to get it taped. But he had tape on his neck. Like this, the reason we're focused so much on this because I don't think there's anything else wrong with this team. And the only thing that can get in this team's way of winning a national championship is health. And this is the first day where that wasn't just like a concept of like Gillis will do this sometimes. Like, well, what if this guy gets hurt? I'm always like, stop doing that. Stop putting that evil out there on people because you can't plan for injuries, right? Well, it's like, oh, what if you lose this? Well, of course, we're not going to win. But that's not a real. That's not analysis. That's just that's the reality of playing a physical sport is somebody might get hurt. But if we live in that world of we're waiting on somebody to get hurt to prove a point, then you're not really proving a point because they're random. But now it's a reality where the 4 people who are like 4 of the like 11 most important people to this team, and 3 of them are the number 1, 2, and 3 people at different points in this game. 1 didn't play. 1 didn't finish the game, and 1 had to go to the tent. This is where a fan base freaks out.
Yeah.
So I asked you guys all along your feelings of an initial raw reaction when those things happened individually. Where is your initial raw reaction right now as Ohio State is 10-0? From an X's and O's standpoint, I don't see anybody beating this team. Michigan is Michigan. Well, I mean, we're going to spend the next week and a half talking about that game, right? Because I'm not talking about Rutgers. You guys want to talk about Rutgers?
Not particularly. I think Ethan Caligmanis kind of rocks, but that's about
all right. Well, okay.
We have a good receiver who's
okay. Well, we'll save that for Friday's game preview pod.
Okay.
I'm not talking about Rutgers outside of the game preview pod. Okay. I'm just not going to do that. So, like, this is what we are. We are now on JJ Carnell, Brandon Inniss watch.
I think the way I feel is probably the way a lot of Ohio State fans feel right now. Get me to 10 a.m. on November 29th and give me the injury report and let me know who's playing and who's not. Because whoever doesn't play that game, I am officially worried about their health and their ability to help Ohio State win a national title. And if they are playing, it's just we've been playing it safe so we can just get to Michigan. Unfortunately, that's not how it works, though. We're going to spend the next 2 weeks speculating because that's what Twitter does.
But that's like, yes, you're right. There is a world where it's like, oh, they're playing this safe, which there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with making sure but also smart. It's smart. Like the doctors are not going to put these kids out there if they don't think they're healthy enough to play. But also the kids have to be honest with themselves about, okay, where Brandon Inniss was talking about that, having that maturity to go, if I can't go, I can't go. I can't try to be Mr. Tough Guy right now and try to tough it out and not tell anybody that I'm not hurt. And I'm not saying that's what's happening in this situation, but that matters. It's a two-way street. Yeah. It's up to the doctors to take care of you. It's up to the coaches to make sure they don't put you in harm's way. It's up to you as the athlete to make sure that people know something is wrong.
Well, we joked pregame where it's like Jeremiah Smith looks like a dude who's not going to be told no. And there's an element of that.
Yeah, obviously. They're athletes. They want to play. They want to compete. And they think you get told your entire life there's a difference between hurt and injured. You can play hurt. You can't play injured. And that mentality, you think that mentality goes away once they're at the highest possible level of college football? No, of course not. It doesn't go away. But it's. I feel like we are living in 2022 with Jackson Smith-Njigba, 2018 with Nick Bosa, 2023 with Emeka Egbuka, 2022 with Travion Henderson and his I'm playing, I'm not playing, I'm playing, I'm not playing, the offensive line situations where we're about to get into the meat of the season. And this is not like, oh, there's some injuries, guys are banged up. These are the most important players to Ohio State's chances of winning a national championship who have issues now. And I can just understand a fan base who is like maybe a little bit more on edge because they've seen just how much this can go wrong. And then you're looking back on your season and going, man, what if that?
Yeah, like I think I told Steven this in the interview room. Like these are Ohio State's load-bearing walls, right? Like of their entire roster. It's Carnell, it's Jeremiah, and then to a lesser degree it's Julian, right? Like that's what makes this team special. And I think one of the things that makes this unique, which I think to your point, Steven, about talking about why people get so nervous. Like every team has injuries, but sometimes it just feels like it's almost like what happened last year, where it's like Josh Simmons out for the year. All right, we know that. Seth McLaughlin out for the year. All right, we know that. Like this, there's cloudiness around it where Carnell was dressed for Purdue and he wasn't for today, and Jeremiah shows up on the availability report, but he plays anyway. Like there are questions that people have about it where sometimes it just kind of feels like you look elsewhere and it's like, yeah, that team's really banged up, but like you knew the corner wasn't going to play. Like the SEC releases an availability report on like Wednesday, right? Like it's hey, this defensive lineman, he's out a month, or there's like a set. Hey, we are aware of this timeline with Carnell and Jeremiah. To your point, Stefan, about that Michigan game. It's like that game matters for a lot of different reasons. All of them we don't need to repeat. If you're listening to this podcast, you know what I'm talking about. But it's also like, for as kind of banged up as this team is right now, I don't know, beating Michigan and guaranteeing yourself a bye sounds pretty good right now. I know you have to deal with the idea of, every team that had a bye last year lost, and, we have to deal with the rust factor. I don't know if you're kind of banged up, maybe 2-3 weeks of Carnell sitting on a shelf is pretty nice, or Jeremiah sitting on a shelf is pretty nice. And yeah, if you beat Michigan, you get the monkey off your back and all this other kind of stuff goes on. But depending on where this team is at health-wise, you might be able to say, wow, Carnell gave it his all against Michigan. He's, spent. He can't play against Indiana, but we've got a month, right? We've got a month for him to get ready for January 1st. And, that just, I don't know. I was thinking about that. I was talking about that with Patrick Murphy of 247. And he was just like, yeah, them not playing in the first round would kind of be nice right now. And I was like, I didn't think about that. That's a good point. Because like last year they had to play on December 1st or whatever that was. And they had some injuries, but like Josh Fryer was hurt, and I think
they didn't have to play at Indy, so they did kind of get a bit of a bye.
Yeah, correct.
Like this team would have to play at Indy. I laugh because maybe Ryan Day should pick up the phone and call his favorite paisan in Southern Indiana and say, "Hey, you're banged up, we're banged up. This game doesn't matter. What if we just Lincoln Keynoles versus Alberto?"
Have you ever seen those like the World Cup games where it's like, it's like England's playing Spain or something, and it's like
the
they do the
irrelevant
tiebreakers, and it's like both of them advance with a tie. Yeah, they're in the group stage. It's like they both advance with a tie, and there's a bunch of people on Twitter. It's like, why don't they just like kick off and then just like kick the ball back and forth for 90 minutes? Like it's just kind of like, what if you just did that and then you're like, hey guys, like let's just get to the 2-point shootout and then we'll figure it out from there.
Sig and Day, two of the most like competitive guys in the college football, on the phone with each other being like,
the high school basketball equivalent of winning the tip off, holding the ball for 7 minutes and 45 seconds as soon as you cross half court and trying to leave the first quarter up 2-0.
Tickets right now are like $400 for that game. There'd be a lot of people who'd be really upset.
It would look like Bottlegate in Cleveland if they just if they did that and they were just like, guys, like Julian's hurt. Yeah, he's got a bum ankle, and Fernando, his knee, I don't know if Fernando's knee is hurt, but it's we can't do that. It's just
you gotta stop like speaking injuries over the people, man.
I mean, I didn't do that. Julian's ankle had to get retaped. He did twist his ankle tonight.
No, I know, but the knee thing,
Fernando,
man, like,
that was unnecessarily.
You gotta stop doing that, man. Words have power, man. They mean things.
Nobody's 100%.
That's not the point.
I don't know.
Nobody's 100%. There's a difference between nobody's 100% versus you saying, "Hey, Fernando Mendoza, what if he gets his knee just tore up?"
Anyways, let's move on.
We do it, man. That's fair. What's the concern level? If you're like, speak to fans,
if I'm
understanding the context.
Yeah, if I'm an Ohio State fan, I'll do two separate scales. With Carnell, I still think it's like a 2 or a 3. It really just sounds like they're being safe. The Jeremiah thing is a little higher because it's Jeremiah. I put it like a 7 because it's Jeremiah. And also, like, I don't know, Carnell's not like limping around. Like if you're a fan and you see these videos of Jeremiah, your reaction is going to be like, what the hell? And that's
it's a real
fair.
seeing is
That's fair.
believing
And
thing.
we can tell you as reporters who heard Ryan Day talk about it and downplay it and all, say that he was on a pitch count. We can say, hey, don't freak out yet. I'm a fan. If Caleb Williams starts limping, I'm freaking out. Gillis, every time Jaden Daniels scrambles, you're like, RG3, RG3, RG3. Like, I get it.
I'm a nervous mother. Every time Jaden Daniels gets sacked, I turn into a nervous mother.
Yeah, yeah. Like, I get it.
So I get it.
If you're
understand.
If you're a fan and you see a video of Jeremiah Smith limping around, like, it's fair. This is how it works.
Yes.
It's fair to be concerned.
I think I'm similar. Like, I'm probably like a 5 with Carnell right now because one, I mean, it sounds like soft tissue for both those guys, and it's like, okay, Carnell would have had just longer, and that's maybe why to your point about not limping around, yes. But Carnell also, like, the last time he played football was November 1st, and, he will have 28 days to get ready, 28 days later, to get ready for the Michigan game. Jeremiah Smith was limping up and down the tunnel, and they play Michigan in 14 days. That's why I think JJ should probably be a little higher, not just because, like, oh, JJ's the best receiver in college football, but because there's just less of a window there, where at least with Carnell, you can be like, well, he's been rehabbing, he's been working on stuff. You can kind of talk yourself into that.
Steven, let me ask you a question. Because you talked about the hindsight thing with JJ. And I think you're right. Regardless of what had happened, it sounded like he was on a pitch count, right? Like, Friday said as much. If it looks exactly like it did today, would you even do a pitch clock next week? So not hindsight. Let's look forward. If it looks like this, would you even do a pitch count?
If he can't get through practice on Tuesday without limping off the field, you do not play him on Saturday. And even then, I think he would be light. I would not have him out there doing competitive drills. I would have him out there for the sake of putting together your game plan when you're installing things. If he can't get through the practice without limping, he needs to not play against Rutgers, period. I don't think it needs to get to... I almost think, and this is if I were in charge, right? In this reality, I am in charge. He does not get to be questionable. He's either playing or he's out. Because that's the best player not in the NFL right now. You cannot mess around with that dude. You cannot. And that's not to take away from Carnell or Julian or anybody else. But they're not the best player not in the NFL right now. You can't mess around with that. I think you're right. I think because fans got to see him limping around today, they probably think it's worse than it actually is. That's the best player not in the NFL right now. There is no more of no one is being more invested into than Jeremiah Smith. And that's not just financial. That's like emotional investment. Like every possible investment you could have in a college football player, I promise you this kid is getting. He's got a Red Bull deal and he's like all over have y'all been down High Street? Have you seen his?
I was just going to say, I was at a bar Friday night and his face is everywhere.
Every other scroll on TikTok I see, I'm sick of Jeremiah Smith. I'm sick of Jeremiah Smith.
That's also just your algorithm is Ohio State receivers.
It is just, it's literally no other position. It's just Ohio State receivers. Sure, yes, he was limping around. He also played on it, right? We don't know what Carnell's doing throughout the week, right? But also, that's the best player not in the NFL. So do you think if it was that bad, they would be letting him limp up and down tunnels? Don't you think if it was that bad, he would not have been walking around the sideline in the second half? He would have been in the back getting treatment?
Yeah. That was what I was saying earlier about, like, the miracle quote, like, can he hurt it any worse? Like, I can like, unless we're dealing with some level of malpractice that's unfathomable, like, I don't think Ohio State's letting him walk around.
Yeah, it's just he shouldn't have played football today. That's all it is. He just shouldn't have played. But also, it seems like a soft tissue thing. I'm not going to say that for certainty because obviously we don't know that. It looks like it's a soft tissue thing. So he could have very easily gotten through this game, gotten through his whatever pitch count was, and like been fine.
Yeah. And
still would have needed to go get treatment after the game. That's why I'm trying my best to not evolve this conversation into a like shame on you, doctor, shame on you, Dave, for letting this kid play. Because, I mean, he went through warm-ups, right, Stefan? I don't know if he showed anything that was like he definitely shouldn't play.
And he was not limping that bad pregame. And I think there's obviously an element where you see that and say, well, it got worse because you made him play. It could also be that he's fine. He just played 25 snaps of football where he was getting tackled and he was running around. And it's just a bit more sore in the immediacy after he's done playing. Right? Like, how many times, like, when someone rolls their ankle, I think about Julian. Like, someone rolls their ankle, how many times do you see, like, in the NBA, it's like, put me back, like, tape it up and put me back out there? Because if you sit and you just let it sit there, it gets way worse, right? So there could be an element of like, I don't know what if Jeremiah could have played the whole game and been fine the whole game, and then post game he's just kind of sore because he just played 60 snaps on.
Yeah, could he have played if this were the national championship game? Would they have put him back?
Probably. He wasn't 100%
I think you would have needed like one of those like human-sized nets to catch him from running onto the field. I think he would have.
That's where the adults in the room have to be the adults in the room, and if he's not, right, I get the moment's bigger, so of course
I agree.
This was the first. I think the way he was limping on the sideline, I don't think they would have been able to put him back in the game, regardless of the magnitude of the moment. And that's why I've come to the conclusion of like, in this my reality where I'm in charge, if he cannot be full go all week in practice, you do not play him on Saturday because you do not need him to beat Rutgers.
I have been thinking about this while we've been talking about this, and I don't even know if like this is worth putting into sphere because it's maybe speculation, but it's like if it's not better in 2 weeks, you do have an interesting decision to make at Michigan. If it was Michigan next week, it'd be an interesting decision because the obvious thing is like, yes, he's playing against Michigan. Say what you will, I think the rivalry still matters a ton. There is a season beyond Michigan this year. Like I don't think is Travion's probably the example of like stop and go. Like probably doesn't help all the time.
And he didn't play against Michigan. I don't think JJ would have played if they were playing Michigan next week, and that's why he's not. I don't think he's going to play next week. I think that's probably the best. I think that's the proper middle ground with that. Okay, that's 30 minutes on JJ and Carnell.
Other stuff happened.
Yeah, it did. There was other things that happened. It's just like, listen, man, like, man, Carnell didn't play a second straight week, and JJ didn't finish the game, man. Like, nothing else matters. I'm just gonna be real with you. Like, nothing else matters. The three most important people in different variations have an injury thing going on to different level, to different degrees, obviously. But like, listen, you're elite 5-star quarterback who might win the Heisman Trophy, the best player in college football, and arguably the second best receiver in college football, all did not finish a football game. I don't care about right guard. I'm just going to be real with you because it doesn't matter if they're not playing. Let's take a break, and then we'll quickly hit on just one other thing we want to talk about here on Buckeye Talk.
Introducing Oakley Meta Vanguard, the new performance AI glasses designed for athletes. With hands-free capture on an action-ready ultra-wide camera, powerful open-ear speakers, and built-in Meta AI that syncs with your Garmin devices for real-time insights while you train. Take your performance to the next level with Oakley Meta Vanguard. Athletic intelligence is here. Learn more on meta.com.
This episode is brought to you by Disney. This Thanksgiving, Judy Hopps and Nick Wilde are back on the big screen. So grab your family and friends as Disney invites you to return to Zootopia for the phenomenal movie event of the holiday season. See all your favorite Zootopia characters plus new favorites in the most pawsome movie of the year. Don't miss Disney Zootopia 2 when it hits theaters everywhere November 26th. Get your tickets now.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix. This Monday night, witness the end of an era. John Cena takes center stage for his final appearance ever on Monday Night Raw. One last match, one unforgettable farewell. Come celebrate the legacy of a true WWE legend. Monday Night Raw, November 17th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, only on Netflix. Be there for the moment everyone will be talking about.
The family that vacations together stays together. At least, that was the plan. Except now, the Dastardly desk clerk is saying he can't confirm your connecting rooms.
Wait, what?
That's right, ma'am. You have rooms 201 and 709.
No, we cannot be 5 floors away from our kids.
The doors have double locks. They'll be fine.
When you want connecting rooms confirmed before you arrive, it matters where you stay.
Welcome to Hilton. I see your connecting rooms are already confirmed.
Hilton, for the stay.
And we're back here on Buckeye Talk. Stephen Means, Stefan Krajisnik, and Andrew Gillis. Ohio State 48-10 over UCLA. Very quick, like lightning round quick. Gillis, biggest takeaway from Ohio State's win over UCLA.
I mean, we talked about a lot of the big stuff, probably the biggest stuff. So after that, I mean, I think Stefan wrote about this postgame. I thought Gabe Van Sickle played pretty well at right guard. Stefan was talking about this in our video. There is now, I think, a not insane conversation to have about like 3 people playing guard. I think having that conversation with Tegra, we've said this before, it's never like the ceiling with Tegra, it's the floor can look really ugly. we've talked about it where he looked fairly solid against Penn State, and it kind of felt like his job was on the line. His butt was on the line for losing his job. And then he played pretty well. And then it's like, all right, hey, man, Philip Daniels out against Purdue. So good luck, man. And then he did not play well at all. And like Ryan Day referenced something in the press conference, like, I see it too. So like, he understood that we all know that Tegra had a hideous game. I thought Tegra was solid tonight, but I also thought I thought Tegra was fine. I need to go back and watch this. I need to go back and watch the tape, grind the tape. I thought Gabe Van Sickle, though, played fairly well. There was the one drive that he came in. It was his first one. He could have been called for an illegal hands to the face, and I want to go look back at that, but it looked like he just kind of yanked the helmet off of the UCLA nose tackle. So I want to see that. But like Stefan and I were talking about this, Stefan was pointing stuff out. Like he had a really nice seal block where Bo Jackson got an extra couple of yards because he held somebody off and created an alley for the running back. So, I thought Bo played fairly well. And then, you start to look at this like, okay, we're going to talk about Carnell and JJ and like, oh, you only got one more week before Michigan. Gabe Van Sickle, I don't know. I don't think he's going to start at Michigan. I don't think you're going to give that kid his first start unless you start him against Rutgers. But Josh Padilla's coming back from injury. You would think Ryan Day said he'll be back, if not for this game, then by Rutgers. Josh Padilla is back. Gabe Van Sickle's in the mix. Tegra Shabola's in the mix. I'm just curious to see what they do. And I think you have at least a doable option there rather than just crap. It's 77 and then a bunch of nothing.
I'm sorry. It's just Fox has a tweet from NBC of Jeremiah at halftime. He's like limping off. And I think you can tell he noticed the cameras on him. And now he tries to hit this slight jog. And it's like, JJ, you don't have to do that, man. It's okay. Stefan, biggest takeaway that's not DEFCON 4-17-10.
Special teams has become a strength for Ohio State, to be quite honest, right? It went from problem early in the season to, okay, they're at least not doing anything bad, to its strength. Jaden Fielding, we criticize him a ton. We've been hard on him at times. He was pretty good. He's been pretty good the last few weeks for Ohio State. I think the distance is probably still a bit of a limit, but he's not missing. What was his was it 41-yarder that he hit today? Like, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. Like, give Ohio State that's fine. And then Lorenzo Siles obviously having his kick return. 100 yards, ends a streak of, what did you say, was Stephen 15 years since the last time they had a kickoff return for a touchdown. That was just cool to see. Obviously, everyone's celebrating with Lorenzo, but like Sonny running down the sideline and high-fiving him, and NBC kept, flashing the camera to Ohio State's sideline, and they're talking to each other, even well after the kickoff return. So that was really cool. And Brandon Ennis, we were hard on him in the punt return game, and, he's helping Ohio State avoid hidden yards, right? Losing hidden yards. He's running up, fair catching it. We saw him, try, I think, one, maybe two returns today. It didn't necessarily break anything big, but, since the Washington game, he's been, excuse me, he's been pretty good about returning kicks or returning punts for Ohio State. Shout out to the special teams unit. It's become a weapon for Ohio State, and I think, I don't know, you see the kick return, and that kind of feels like a garbage time type of thing against UCLA. I don't know, what if Lorenzo returns 100 yards in the Fiesta Bowl this year? And all of a sudden, instead of Ohio State, struggling against Georgia or whoever you want to mention, now they've opened it up a bit because they got something from their special teams unit. So I thought that was a big play, even though the circumstances of the game were not, tight or consequential. I thought that was a positive again for special teams. And this is probably the second or third game in a row where it hasn't just been about don't hurt us. It's been, hey, how can you benefit us? And I thought it's been pretty good.
Special teams being special. Who would have thought?
Special teams, special plays, special players.
We finally made it. James Peoples has looked very good after this second bye week.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a kid who's stepping up to the challenge. They've got three dudes. And then you got CJ Donaldson, who his role is necessary. I think, like, on Julian Sand's sack, I think Bo just, picked the wrong guy that he was supposed to pick up in that situation there, which, again, freshmen running backs are not good in pass pro because this is the first time they've ever done it before in their life, especially highly rated ones, and it's fine, which is why CJ Donaldson is here to handle those situationals. And so those are times when CJ Donaldson would have been on the field. But I like the ball in the hands of the other three. Bo Jackson, 15 carries for 112 and a touchdown with a long of 32. Isaiah West, 8 carries for 61 yards and a touchdown and a long of 38. James Peoples, carries for 42 yards and 2 touchdowns and a log of 19, including 1 touchdown where he hurdled a man. Stefan's going to write more about that. But I like the ball in those 3 hands. And I like that distribution of the ball in those 3 guys' hands. More of that. Love that, Carlos. He's figuring it out, man. He's got 4 guys he thinks he can play. And I think he's starting to perfect how to use them. Because that's the thing. The more guys you have, the harder it is to kind of find a rhythm to things. And I think he's starting to find a rhythm where it didn't feel like it was out of sorts which one of the 3 was on the field today. And I felt like they had a good rhythm last week too. It's just CJ Dawson wasn't available for this week, even though he was questionable. That's all I got. Anybody got anything else they want to bring up?
Noon, Fox for the Rutgers game. It's been decided.
So 2 more noon games left this season, and then we're going to be covering night games for the rest of the year.
Well, maybe.
Well, what?
They moved the Rose Bowl up this year. I think it's a 4 p.m. kick, so it's a 1 p.m. local kick. So for those on the West Coast,
it'll be dark by the time we leave.
It'll be sunny by the time it kicks off.
It'll be but then it'll be setting by the time the second half kicks off. But either way, I'm still factual that there's no more noon games after these 2.
USC Oregon got the CBS spot next week. I thought that was going to be the night NBC for sure. That kind of stinks.
What is the night NBC?
It is Nebraska at Penn State.
Ew. 614-350-3315. 2-week free trial, $3.99. After that, that's a post-game pod. Stefan and I will come back on Monday with the Leave No Doubt pod, where we're going to explore right guard and what they should do at right guard. We're going to rewatch it. He paid attention to right guard. I didn't. I was concerned about Jeremiah.
Wait, one more. I got one more thing. I didn't realize until I just saw this on Twitter. Ohio State just set the Big Ten record for 10-win seasons. It's their 33rd
33.
season.
Yeah. Congratulations, Ohio State. More ways that you've shown that you're better than everybody else at the Big Ten, as if we didn't already know that over the past 25 years. 614-350-3315. 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. Leave No Doubt pod on Monday. Recruiting pod on Tuesday, because things are happening across multiple classes now. Things are happening. Blaine Bradford showed up. Like that's a big deal that Blaine Bradford was here. And I know there's no reason to be concerned about him flipping, but still, he's from Louisiana, man, and he's a 5-star recruit. Anytime he shows up on campus, that is a good thing, because I don't remember the last time he was in Columbus. So very good thing. We'll be back with Ryan Day on Tuesday as Ohio State prepares to play Rutgers in their final home game of the year. Live show on Wednesday at 11 a.m. We're going to be breaking down the people who might be playing their last game in Ohio Stadium because they're draft eligible for the first time. It's a long list of guys who could go or they could stay. I'm going to break down why they would go or why they would stay. For Andrew Gillis, Stefan Krajisnik, I'm Stephen Means. Talk to you guys later.
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it guaranteed or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.